Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward, and this is Face to Face. Our guest this week is British Columbia-based singer-songwriter Kristi Lane Sinclair. Sinclair, who is Cree and Haida, has released 3 albums, including Dark Matter, which took home the 2017 Indigenous Music Award for Best Rock Album. She has just released her new single, Break. Kristi, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Congrats on the new single. Your new song titled Break was just released to the world today. How does that feel?
Kind of amazing. I mean, it was delayed years and years through COVID and just like other things. So it was kind of like I didn't believe it would happen.
Can you tell us a bit about the song and the meaning for you?
Break is like a really hyper personal song. I use music for like my therapy, and at this time, okay, I'm in APTN, I'll just tell you everything.
Go ahead. Please.
You're my uncle, just kidding. Yeah, it came after domestic abuse. I had PTSD, and basically I had 2 broken hands. So I wrote this kind of teaching myself to play guitar again and just processing and trying to make an accurate description of, you know, that event. So for me, it's just like total therapy, and I worked on it a long time to, like, you know, make sure I got it right. Mm-hmm. And yeah. That was basically it. And I knew right away, I'm just like, oh, I didn't even want to like actually record it. I thought it was just a personal song for me, which there's lots where I just like, I'm like, yeah, that's for you.
Makes more sense with the hands now. The video, which is also out now, features your hands quite a lot in it. I guess something so personal, what is that like to have out there for anybody and everybody?
Well, I mean, you know, especially like the hand part of it, because I'm a trained guitarist, so it was just like doing something, not being able to do something that was totally rudimentary, and you know, and then I'm just struggling with like keeping a beat, because it's like your hands are kind of numb, they're healing and all this stuff. So, I mean, that in itself was like a struggle, and you know, and stuff like that you don't want to, like, this is probably the only press where I'll even talk about it, but it's like you guys are like fam jam, so, and you know, and getting the message out there and talking about it, because I feel like stuff like this isn't talked about. And you know, I even had friends saying like, you can't post about this, you can't, you know, you won't work again. Mm-hmm. And at some point, you know, and I wasn't, you know, you're like embarrassed. Like, I'm a 6 foot tall, like, Haida Cree woman. Like, nobody takes me down. But where that was a sadness before, now I'm like proud of it, because it can like absolutely happen to anyone. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter, you know, how badass you are.
You are pretty badass. Appreciate you sharing that story with us. One of the things that people will notice when they listen to this song, many will anyways, is that it features the throat singing from the late Kelly Frasier. Why did you want to include Kelly's voice in this?
Well, Kelly and I were friends, and I'll tell you the story. Like, Kelly's amazing. She has this like badass accent, and obviously like a voice of an angel, and like just like this presence. So I was at a party in Toronto, and she came in and she just started like bounding up to me. Like, it almost looked like she was a deer. And she came up to me, she's like, "Oh my God, you're recording?" She's like, "I'm gonna be on that record." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And it was just kind of like that kind of confidence. I'm like, how would I ever say no or anything? You've just informed me. And I'm like, okay, let me listen. I'm like, off the top of my head, I can think of a few songs, and Break was one of them. And I'm like, let me listen to some songs and I'll send you a track. And then she sent me another message being like, actually, can I come to the studio and watch you work? Because I feel like I could learn a lot from it, seeing how you put music together. And I'm like, I agree, yeah, totally. But we were recording out of town. And so I just told her, I'm like, you can come, you can sleep in my bed, like, come out for a week and we'll hang out. And that never happened. So I got in touch with one of her producers and was like, okay, I have this song, and, you know, Kelly wanted to be on the record, and I still want to have her part of the record. And he sent me this track, and it fit perfectly, the BPM, everything was, and the style, like, it's not edited at all. They just, like, dropped it in, and it's perfect. So and as Kelly was someone who also suffered from PTSD, so it was just, like, really meaningful having her back me up, you know? And, yeah, that's it. And, yeah, I just love it. And it's like, you know, yeah, it means a lot.
Fits beautifully in the song. Like I said, the video is also out, has a lot of cultural things going on in there. What does the video mean for you and your culture?
Oh, man. Well, this was filmed in COVID, and I lived in Toronto, and I think I drove out in my camper van and, like, quarantined. My friend was out of town, so I quarantined at his house for, like, 2 weeks just to make this video. Well, not just to make this video. I wanted to see my family, obviously. Mm-hmm. So Haida Gwaii is quite remote, so I was just, like, up, you know, like, up north, and it was crazy. I mean, it's not crazy because everyone knows what it's like to be able to see people after, like, so long without. Mm-hmm. So, like, especially that video, having, you know, that was the first time, like, it was like ceremony, you know, and the two ladies in the video are my aunts, and then I have two of my cousins and, like, two of my best friends. So they're basically all my sisters. So, I mean, it was crazy. And yeah, when you get that many Haida ladies in a room, it's a thing. It's a look. So it was awesome. It was fun. It was so intense, and everybody was going through stuff, and everybody just needed it. And, you know, I feel like that comes across in the video, and just to, like, you know, beat a drum, wear regalia, like, that's so wild. And yeah.
Certainly is a beautiful video. In addition to this, there is a full album coming, Super Blood Wolf Moon, that is described in the press kit as a little bit of Bach and a little bit of the Smashing Pumpkins, which I'm totally down for. Can you tell us about the album?
I didn't read my bio. That's funny. Bach and Smashing Pumpkins. That's, like, really accurate. I, like, studied Bach and classical guitar forever. A bit about the album. I mean, I would say kind of like classical grunge, which is kind of the same thing. Bach and Smashing Pumpkins. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I basically, you know, I'm like an anarchist. I just do whatever I feel at the moment. So there's really soft, like, really beautiful songs, and then there's just, like, punk songs, and, you know, it was you know, an album I spent longer writing than anything else, and then longer holding on to than anything else ever. So yeah, it's the craziest thing I've ever done, but it's good.
Looking forward to it. We're going to talk more about the album, the new music. We just got to step aside for a quick break, and then we'll continue the conversation here on Face to Face with award-winning singer-songwriter Kristi Lane Sinclair. Stick around. Welcome back to Face to Face. We're sitting down this week with singer-songwriter, award-winning singer-songwriter, Kristi Lane Sinclair, who just today unleashed new music into the world, the single Break. Before the break, we were also talking about the new album. The press material says you wanted Super Blood Wolf Moon to be a true account of how it feels to live with domestic violence and PTSD. This must be a pretty personal album for you.
Yeah, hyper personal. You know, there was a point, there's a few songs on the record that are about this, and, you know, my producer and the people in the band, you know, I didn't want to record these songs. It sounded like, you know, the biggest emotional cutting you can do, but I think it was my bass player, Anna, who was just like, well, you know, there's a lot of, this happens all the time, and it's not talked about, and there's certain people who have a voice, and you're one of them. So it's kind of, you have to. And I was like, damn it.
It's a lot of pressure.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, like, you know, a little bit comfort for me hopefully will turn into comfort for other people, and like I'm not like a role model or, you know, saying that, you know, I know what to do or anything. It's just sharing my experience, and you know, just being like, because I didn't know what was going on. I thought, you know, I just thought I was changed forever, you know? I didn't think anything would get better, or, you know, taking certain steps or medications wasn't working. And I don't think anyone could have told me at that point that things were ever going to get better. And then like, just like, you know, one day, you know, like a year later, it's like sitting on the edge of my bed. I'm like, I kind of feel a little bit better. And that was just like, I'm like, holy crap. That's, yeah, I'm like, I would never believe it. I just thought it was going to get worse and worse and worse. So, I mean, that's, if I were to say anything, I would just share that experience. And I think that is helpful. And the fact that, you know, and then when I start talking to people, it's like, wow, this is super common. Like more common than, you know, more common than not. Like, you know, people in my life that I talk to all the time, I was just like, wow. And sharing those experiences was like healing for everybody. I don't know, just starting a conversation. Yeah.
This is your first new music in a few years now. Of course, we had COVID through all of this, but did you mean to take that time off?
Well, I had to, like before COVID, I had taken a year off work. Like I couldn't do music, or I also do film. I just couldn't like multitask very well. So when COVID hit, I was kind of like, yes, now everybody has to do it. You try staying home for a year. Yeah, but now I'm like, okay, like not that long. Don't keep me inside forever.
Right.
Yeah. So.
You know, we're trying to move forward here, it seems like, past this pandemic. People are touring again, though, you know, big acts are having troubles making it a go with touring right now, even as well. Are you hoping to get out there? Are you hoping that you can share the music live with people?
Yeah, no, totally. I think I've played one show. I've had many shows booked and canceled, so I felt like a professional, just like plain writer, like all messed up, and like wow, this is not productive at all. So I mean, I've played one show in Toronto, and that's been it. And you know, I love playing live, and I'm super excited, but also I think for like touring musicians, it's like incredibly hard once you get back to it. I think in COVID, after like 2 weeks, I'm like, this is the longest I've been in Toronto since I moved here for 7 years. Like I got like my self-worth from people wanting me to go places. So now I just got over that, and they're like, go places, and I'm like, I have like the feel of my own bed, and I've finally figured out how to, like, you know, not be stir crazy, and then they're trying to kick me out of my house again and just ping pong me back and forth around Canada. So I mean, like, I'm super looking forward to it, but I'm thinking there are some things that I would change about how much I traveled and toured and stuff like that. But I mean, obviously playing to people is like why I'm here.
Right. You know, the making of this album was done with all women, from the band to the engineers and producers. Why was that something important for you this time around?
Well, I think for one, women are the best at everything. Just kidding. Not really. Totally serious. But, you know, there's definitely that you know, it's a man's industry, and on the record, everyone's also front women on the record, and you know, it's like we've always had to kind of live in that world and overcompensate for that. And it was really amazing being in the studio with women, not only because of the subject matter, but because just that energy of just like being, you know, I would say totally, yeah, like not ego driven, not, you know, trying to cut someone down just to, you know, shut them up. Mm-hmm. I'm like, how do I dig myself out of this without, yeah, totally slamming men? But I mean, it's a hard industry to be in as a woman. And it was really amazing to have that collaborative process. And, you know, they all sang backups on the record. And I was like, well, let's just go for it then. So we got female engineers. And Emily Lazar in New York is like the best mastering engineer. Like, she's like 1 million Grammys. Like, she masters for like David Bowie, and she came on the record. So, I mean, there was definitely a rally of, yeah, just trying to get as many women contributing as possible, and it was super, super dope.
Right on. Kristi, more to talk about here. We're just got to step aside for one more quick break, and then we'll continue the conversation here on Face to Face with singer-songwriter Kristi Lane Sinclair. Stay with us. Welcome back to Face to Face. Our guest this week is award-winning singer-songwriter Kristi Lane Sinclair. And Kristi, maybe let's just talk a little bit more about yourself and you know, how your family and your the way you were raised ties into the music that you play today.
I was raised in Prince Rupert, which is like a fishing port, and grew up with like my Haida side of my family mostly. And I guess like everything, you know, there's like songs about my mom, and you know, I always get asked that. It's like, what makes you like, it's like my most like uncomfortable question. It's like when people try to make me explain why I would be considered Indigenous music, because, you know, it's like I don't have enough like things that they would consider, you know, the hey ya ya's, that check mark of whatever. But I'm just like, but like absolutely everything I do and write about is about, it's Indigenous. It's a lived experience. And, you know, that has everything to do with my music and the way I grew up. And, you know, there's a song on the record, which I guess will come out in, I think, September. Yeah, but it's like about like, you know, dogfish woman as my mother. Like, this is a dogfish. It's, you know, like a shark. It's a supernatural creature. So it's like that stuff ties in a lot. And there's, you know, a song called Land Back, where it's just like me screaming around about like, you know, being trapped in Banff.
Right.
at the art center there.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, oh my God. Anyway.
You
They'll never have me back.
No,
Not now.
they've never had me ever. So, you said that the album's probably coming out in September. I guess, can you talk about the rollout and what's going to be happening over the next couple of months?
Yeah. Well, I guess, I don't know. This is all new for me too. Like, I'm just like trying to learn how to do TikTok, and I feel like ancient dinosaur brontosaurus being like, what?
Yeah.
We're trying to do like a duet for like forever. And yeah, so I love making albums, but apparently it's all about singles. So I think we're going to release one a month. So yeah, I think the next single comes out like March 13th. And I believe there's going to be 4, and then you get the whole record. So there's still like, I mean, this has been planned for so long that, there's 4 videos shot. Like, Break was, I want to say, like, second wave. Are we still doing waves? Like, second wave. I went out to Haida Gwaii, and, like, that's not the only time. I like, during COVID, I bought, like, a camper van, like a 98 Ford Econoline van with a bed in the back, and we would just drive around because, yeah, it was just like, Toronto, like, in a tiny apartment. It was just like, let's just, like, go.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I don't know why. It's really fun.
Well, we do want to leave some time for the new music video break. So, Kristi, we'll leave it there, but appreciate you coming in, talking to us about your new music, and it sounds great. Looking forward to the rest of the singles in the album.
Awesome. Thanks for letting me sit down and talk to you guys and talk to you guys.
Our pleasure. So that is all the time we have this week, as we're going to throw to Kristi's video here in a second. You can catch up on any episodes you may have missed by visiting our website, aptnnews.ca. And this episode and all of our past episodes are also available as podcasts. You can find those wherever you download your podcasts, where you'll also find Kristi's music. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for tuning in this week. We'll leave you now with some of Kristi's new video, Break.